If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Henry Ford. DZ Tribe, Josh Thomas, super glad to have you here. Be sure to follow the Do Zone podcast and subscribe on Apple and or Spotify. This podcast is brought to you by Unbreakable Teams. We help entrepreneurs build the systems they need to crush their goals, the teams they need to execute those systems, and the accountability they need to make sure it all gets done. If you're ready to take your business to the next level and you know you can't do it alone, go to unbreakableteams.com now. Once again, that's unbreakableteams.com. Today's guest is Mr. Jonathan Rosenfeld. Jonathan is the founder and managing attorney at Rosenfeld Injury Lawyers in Chicago. Rosenfeld Injury Lawyers manages to grow their business amid an increasingly competitive field. Outside of the law, Jonathan is busy with his family, enjoying any outdoor activity, and pizza making. Hey, Jonathan, welcome to the Do Zone. Say what's up to the tribe and tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. And, as far as getting stuff done, I think it all sort of begins with planning. I think you got to start planning what you're going to do tomorrow, today. And, a lot of times people, you got to start, whether it's just laying your clothes out, to get dressed in the morning, you got to set the plan for tomorrow, today. And I'm a huge believer in that. Some people that like to make lists. I sometimes make lists. I sometimes make, mental lists or whatever. But, the key to everything is really planning. And so when you wake up tomorrow, you sort of know what the course of action is and you're ready to get going and you don't waste any time doing that.
What? You mean I can't just wing it? Come on.
Maybe you can. I don't have
that's been working so terrible for me in the past. And I should keep doing it, right?
If you want to keep doing it, go for it. But no, I mean, I'm the kind of person that, I like a routine. I like to have a goal and a plan of action, really from the time I get up, and it just makes my day a lot smoother. Not that it's always followed, to the T, but at least I know the direction I should be going.
Well, let's dive into that for a minute because I love the fact that you said, hey, I love to have a routine. And human beings are very habitual creatures. What we tend to do is what we tend to always do. And what we have always done is what we continue doing. And so we do that for a very specific reason. And it's mostly because our brains are lazy and they want to conserve energy. Right. And we get into this routine and we stick with the routine because once we change it, it's like, I got to think and, all this stuff. And so what you're saying is, look, if you plan this out and you make that your routine, because we're following a routine, whether it's the one that works for us or not. But if you make the routine, hey, I'm going to plan this in advance. I'm going to know what I'm going to do. I know what clothes I'm going to wear tomorrow. We're removing decisions from your plate, and we can remove those decisions. We can invest that energy into doing a better job or something like that. Have you ever kind of dove into that a little bit, or kind of?
I mean, I don't know if I've really thought about it to the extent that you have, but no.
Well, we are on the Do Zone,
No, I get it. No, but the truth is that, I guess I grew up, I swam competitively in high school and college and from a very young age. And, we always had morning practice, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning practice or whatever. And you didn't have time to, think about what color socks you were going to wear, or you didn't have time to, really plan out, am I going to have eggs or bagels or cereal for breakfast? It was just, go. And that was something that, again, at a sort of an early age, it was not an intentional thing, but that just sort of taught me the importance of planning in advance and taking those decision-making sort of elements out of the mix to a certain degree. And it does, I still do a lot of those things today, even though I'm not swimming competitively, but I still do a lot of those things because the more streamlined you can make, your life, your business, whatever it is, the better off you're going to be, and the less opportunity there is going to be to deviate from that plan. Obviously you still have to adhere to it, and you still have to go through and complete the tasks, but at least when you know what those tasks are and you've done them time and time again, it's a lot easier than to wake up and, I guess I should make, some calls now. I guess I should do some emails. And so I'm just a huge believer in having a routine. I have got set calls on certain days. And I just know that's what's going to happen. And the more routine I can build into my life, frankly, the easier it is for me, because I know exactly what's coming, and the times, and what's involved in it. So, obviously there's things that come up, that make things impractical. Life comes up, family comes up, obligations come up. But again, when you know what what the game plan is, it just makes things easier.
Yeah, well said. I'm not a morning person. And I remember it was about a year ago, I picked up a client, and I had several clients at the time, and we were at this phase, like this critical phase where we had to meet daily.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my morning slots were already taken up. And so I'm like, guess we can meet at 8:30. But it was like brutal, I'm like, 8:30, that's so hard for me, because I was just this guy that always woke up late. And then I got a friend of mine who wants to start going to the gym, and I'm like, all right, fine, I'll go to the gym. But the only time we could go was 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do it for a week. And I did it. But the strangest thing happened, Jonathan, because I put that in and I said, I'm going to do it. All of a sudden, like, I didn't have to think anymore. Like, you got to get up at 5:30 or you're going to leave this person hanging at the gym and they're going to yell at you. And that accountability thing kicks in, right?
The accountability, I'm just a huge believer in, just, basically getting the momentum going for the day, doing it's not stupid, but doing a pretty basic thing like going to the gym, or, whatever your morning is, and, getting that over and knocked out early on, it just sort of sets the momentum, and it really just sort of sets the tone for the day.
That's
So,
right.
it's a huge thing, and just you probably don't even realize it, but that's basically, crossing that box off, from the beginning. And hey, like, whatever else comes up, you at least accomplish that. And momentum, I'm a big also believer in just having momentum. Once you start accomplishing little tasks or whatever, and breaking them down, it makes your day better. It makes, some of these bigger projects a little bit more digestible if you start breaking them down into little pieces, and go about it like that.
Yeah, that's right. Because the changes that happened for me, and I'm still not a morning person, I still hate it. But what it does is I'm back at my house by 7 o'clock, and I just bought myself 2 hours of productivity that I never had in my life. And then it's like, well, what am I going to do with this time? Well, I've been meaning to write. I need to write, and I need to meet with my team, and we just kind of squeeze it in. You know what? I can do that earlier now. And what you said, it's kind of like stacking these wins, checking off these boxes, and you have a lot more momentum, a lot more productivity going into the day, because you don't have to think about what you're going to do, because you're not pressed for time. You're not trying to figure it out. You just have that structure. And it sounds like that might have been one of that college swimming experience that you had has transferred over into your entrepreneurial experience a little bit. And tell me kind of how did you apply some of those principles of that routine into starting to build your business?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the biggest things that I've learned, swimming competitively, and doing other sports growing up, is that the people who tend to have the most success in a lot of these sports are not necessarily the most talented people. They're the people who have, who are willing to put in the effort, who are willing to show up consistently, and who really have the grit that it takes, to basically overcome setbacks and challenges and things like that. And those are skills which, are tremendous to have in any type of business, but especially as an entrepreneur. There's so many uncertainties involved. That's part of being an entrepreneur. It's not, not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur and sort of carve their own path. A lot of people, and I think that's an important thing to realize, is that it is not something for everyone. The people who tend to have more success in the entrepreneur, sphere are people who have, sort of a skill set where, they can have a setback, they can have a failure, and they can bounce back from that. And that's something that, obviously, like I'm no different than anyone else. I've got plenty of setbacks. I've got, plenty of, projects that don't go exactly how I want. They get derailed, they take longer, sometimes they just don't work out. But how you bounce back from those setbacks is really, really what sets apart, successful entrepreneurs from people who, may dabble with it and sort of give up on things. So I guess to get back to sort of what you're going is just to be consistent, and just keep grinding and pushing through the work.
That's a great point. And I don't know that anybody's ever really identified it that way. Being an entrepreneur is not necessarily about being talented, although that helps. It's not necessarily even about being consistent, although that's pretty important too. What you're saying is the key trait of a successful entrepreneur is their ability to adapt and overcome adversity in a way. Is that kind of
Absolutely.
what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. I mean, anyone who tells you that they did this project, they did this business, they did this, whatever it is, and everything worked out great, is probably not being truthful to you or to themselves. Because I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just have bad luck, but no, in all trueness, seriousness, there's plenty of things that nothing goes exactly like you planned in the entrepreneurial world. Everything changes so quickly. It's not even just what you're doing, it's what your competitors are doing. Sometimes, you have to react to what they're doing in order to differentiate yourself or to improve upon what they're doing and take it to the next level. So those are things that, you just have to be nimble and have to be able to adjust really on a daily basis.
Do you think that this ability or inability to bounce back, do you think that creates a perception issue for somebody that's trying to become an entrepreneur or trying to become more successful in their business? Do you think that there's this fear of failure that keeps people from even starting? Like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to be able to overcome the failures that are on this path. Better to not start.
Well, look, I think you have to, if you're not willing to put yourself out there in the position, and you're not willing to, whatever the risk, if the risk isn't worth it to you, then maybe you shouldn't get going. There is a risk in everything. There's a risk in taking action, and there's a risk in not taking action. You can sit on the couch and watch, Netflix and, chill or do whatever you want to do, and there's really no risk involved.